Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Secure Up with the Palo Alto Networks CSO leadership team. My name is Rick Howard, and I am the CSO of Palo Alto Networks. Today, I'm joined by John Davis, the Palo Alto Networks Federal CSO. Hey, John.
Hey, Rick and everyone.
And Paul Calatayud, I know I was going to mess that up, the Palo Alto Networks Americas CSO. Hey, Paul.
Hi, everyone.
We've just decided before we started taping that we're going to refer to Paul as Mr. C from now on because that's easier to pronounce. Welcome, gentlemen. Let's get right to it. We're filming in January of 2018, just past the new year. It seems appropriate that we spend a few moments talking about what we might expect to see in 2018. So, John, let's start with you for the federal space. What is the one thing that you expect will impact the federal space this year?
In a word, cloud. I think that the federal government is trying to figure out how to get to the cloud as quickly as possible. And as just one example of that, I got a little paper here from the Department of Defense, and it's called the Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, JEDI. What a cool name.
JEDI, I love that. They should be in commercial space with marketing and things like that.
I know. In this past fall, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, Patrick Shanahan, established this initiative, and here's what it says: aggressively accelerate the department's adoption of cloud architecture and services with a focus on commercial solutions. So this is going to occur from last fall with the objective of coming out the end with some real solutions by next fall. And the objective is to acquire a worldwide, highly available, exponentially elastic, secure, resilient cloud computing and storage environment that seamlessly extends from the home front to the tactical edge. And then want to employ the latest commercial security technologies in order to be able to do this. So I see this as a big deal. And I think that as a result of this, as we all know, security of the cloud is a shared responsibility. So that's where all the difficulties lie in. Who's responsible for protecting data? Well, the owner always has to protect the data. But in a cloud environment, the infrastructure is protected, is secured by the provider. And my observation is companies are getting really, really good at that. So although security has always been a drawback from the perspective of cloud adoption, I think government has finally figured out that companies are getting really good at this. And now you can get effectiveness, efficiency, and securities if you do this right.
Don, it's my impression from last year that government network defenders, they kind of fall in two buckets, right? They either are very excited about the possibility of going to the cloud because of the benefits it gives them, but there's another whole side of the government that is still afraid of the cloud. Is that still true, or has that been eroded away?
I think there's been a little bit of a shift. It's not dramatic. I think there's still many, many holdouts and many skeptics of especially the security of cloud capabilities. And so I think from a government perspective, depending on how sensitive the information is, I think you're going to see a lot of different types of models, hybrid models, in the ability to move in this direction. But I do think they're going to move. And I think over time, they're going to get a little bit more comfortable that this actually is a much more secure way to go, given the ever-increasing complexity of the enterprise environments that we're dealing with.
Okay. Well, Paul, let's turn it over to you then. Same question to you, but let's broaden the audience a little bit. Let's go international for you. What's the one thing that you think we will all be dealing with next year?
Yeah, I think when I think about international kind of as an additional element or influence, I think the big thing that we're going to see this year is a convergence of privacy and security. I think, with GDPR as an example, we saw the starting, origins of an emphasis on privacy and cyber within certain geography. I think that's going to expand and continue to become a big element of how business is done in an interconnected world. I'd say from a technology perspective, you're seeing companies really doubling down on intelligence, analytics, information, and all of that needs to be balanced in a way with privacy. And so I think internationally, there's going to be a lot of companies that are going to, or organizations and regions that are going to think about the impact of GDPR on how they do business, and then expanding that adoption into other geographies.
Well, I think that's right. And, up till just right about now, GDPR has been sort of a thing that's down the road for us. But the deadline for being compliant on GDPR is what, April this year for people in UK? So that is a thing staring everybody in the face, and people are either there or they are scrambling to get there. All right, so that's kind of an overview of what we think we might see the big things. Cloud for the government space, I think we could say that for the commercial space too, but I think GDPR is going to be something that's on all of our lips. Let's move on to the next topic. Last year, it seemed that everybody from the first level help desk operator all the way up to the boardroom director, people have been talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning and what it might mean to the network defender community. I thought we might take a stab at clearing away some of the hype. So, Paul, can you walk us through, just give us a high-level difference between what artificial intelligence is and machine learning?
Yeah, this is a fascinating, topic, because I think marketing and buzzwords always kind of, in some cases, create a lot of confusion for defenders and people that are looking to apply the benefits. So one thing to do to really understand them, to kind of get past the marketing, is really defining the values of each one. And the way I like to look at it is, machine learning is those things that are observable. It's the algorithms being used to create intelligence. And AI is really about the science of making computers smarter, right? And so they're very complementary, but they're also very distinct and different. So in practical examples, when you type into Google and you start typing in a phrase or a keyword, and the search is starting to look at that pattern, it starts making suggestions. Did you mean? Or it starts to autofill. That's machine learning at its kind of practical usage. Over time, the Google search engine has started to observe what people are typing, and it starts to make suggestions on your behalf. Whereas AI, in the example of facial recognition, right, in Facebook and in pictures, that's algorithms being used in machines that are being told through AI science what is a human look like. And so that, independent of machine learning is very useful. What I think is going to become, if I look at those terms together, they're really interdependent. Good machine learning leverages intelligent algorithms based on AI, and machines that are smart get smarter through observables, and that's done through training with machine learning. So even though they're very distinct and different, in practical applications, they're really never used interdependently. They're used together to create strong approaches towards solving problems.
So I think that's right. And the way I look at it is artificial intelligence is really our quest to make machines think. Right? And it goes back to the original paper by Alan Turing, The Imitation Game, when he put forward this thought experiment. You put a man behind a screen, you put a machine behind a screen, and in front of the screen is a judge. The judge asks both parties questions. If the judge can't tell the answers, what the difference is between a man and a machine, then that machine is intelligence. Now, that was way back in the 40s when that happened, right? But any discussion of artificial intelligence up to the present time deals with Alan Turing's original paper. Machine learning is really techniques that use to help us get to that thinking machine, right? And the reason it's used now is that we are, for the first time in my history, we have enough data collected that we can actually use these algorithms to make it seem like machines can think. We're already there in kind of very specific domains, like commercial airlines can land themselves, right, using artificial intelligence. We have Alexa on our desktop who can tell us if we have mail or we have appointments. We have cars that are almost autonomous now. So we can see in specific domains that artificial intelligence is almost there, and those domains are using machine learning to get us there. All right, so John, so let me run it over to you. Why then is machine learning something that all security vendors are using and thinking about in the way they protect their customers?
Sure, Rick. From my perspective and my experience, it goes back to the threat. I mean, we're dealing with an increasingly automated threat, highly automated threat. And so people cannot keep up anymore. The model of using cybersecurity is based on human decision making and manual response only is never going to be able to keep up with the scale and the speed at which the threat is operating now. So what machine learning essentially does, it allows us to allow machines to do what machines do better than people do. And for example, with our machine learning capabilities, we're focused on identifying suspicious behavior from across a customer base of 45,000 plus in 150 countries. That is a lot of scale. And very quick determination through various machine learning capabilities as to whether or not that suspicious activity is okay or it's bad. And if it's bad, then we need to do something about it, push out a security control to everyone that's hooked up to our capability. And this is where the speed comes in. By using these capabilities, we can do that every 5 minutes worldwide. So that enables us to leverage machines to fight this battle that is being fought increasingly from the adversary perspective by machines with things like polymorphic malicious code.
Well, I agree with everything you say, John. And the reason machine learning algorithms are possible for this kind of analysis is it is now possible for the first time for security vendors of all sorts to collect terabytes of data of things that we want to be looking for. In the Palo Alto Networks example, we know we've been in business for over 10 years. We have terabytes of, we have examples of files that we know are good and terabytes volume of files that we know are bad. So we set our machine learning algorithms to look at that so they can find the patterns that the humans can't find. We are now up to the point where we can see 96, 97%, any brand new file coming across the system, we can make a guess and get it right 97% of the time, just by the machine learning algorithms, right? That's an amazing capability. And that is why all the security vendors are kind of turning to machine learning to do this kind of thing. That's why Palo Alto Networks has been doing that.
Hey, Rick, I think we're even in the petabyte range now.
Petabytes. Did I say terabytes? Yeah, I meant petabytes. Thank you, sir, for correcting me. Again, that's why you're a general and I'm just a lieutenant. Okay. All right, so let's move on to our last segment, okay? What I like to do with these conversations when I get these smart guys on the phone is kind of think about what we would tell the board now that we've discussed these high-level technical things. John, let's start with you. Since we're just beginning 2018 and you had to present to the board today, what would you go in there and say, here's the one thing that you should be thinking about, board member? What would you tell them?
You only gave me one thing, so I'm going to cheat.
Okay.
And I'm going to say it's never one thing. It's always a bunch of things, a comprehensive solution that always involve people, processes, and technology. So I'd give them a piece of advice in each one of those categories. For the people, I'd say you've got to invest in education, training, certification of the right types of skill sets, and general awareness. And I would encourage them to find a way to incentivize good standards and discipline for online activity within their company. Not punish the bad, but find ways to incentivize the good. There are very few people who are really doing that well. Processes. I would say the most important process is intelligence and information sharing, cyber threat intelligence and information sharing. And I would ask them, who are you partnered with? Because what this does, it allows you to gain an over-the-horizon capability to understand what's happening beyond the borders of your network enterprise and immunize yourself ahead of time from those threats, which is very effective. And then finally, technology. My advice would be to look for companies, security companies, who are building effective partnerships with other companies. especially in the technical areas. So deeply integrated technical solutions and things like virtual and cloud and mobile and endpoint and even IoT, what that enables you to do as a company is you get to leverage the benefit of someone else who's going out there and doing the integration and the orchestration for you, so you don't have to bring a bunch of different sized parts back in from 100 different, automobile stores and try to build a car yourself in your own company.
Mm-hmm. That's all great stuff, and I think I know you cheated a little bit, but we'll cut you some slack on that one, John. All right, Paul. Same question to you. One thing that you would tell the board right now about what they should be thinking in 2018.
In 2018, I think John we culminated this whole idea around cloud and data, and more organizations are starting to have distributed networks and partnering with vendors. So it all comes down to one kind of key thing that I would be telling board. What are you doing to maintain visibility as your infrastructure, technology partners go beyond your backyard? What's your strategy and what's your concerns around maintaining that visibility? Because you can never outsource risk. You can never transfer the liability and the culpability that any organization has. But the challenge is, as the technology moves and shifts, the perception of responsibility sometimes goes with it, and the visibility and control definitely becomes a challenge. So boards need to be thinking about how do they regain that visibility in an organization so that they can maintain that risk that they need to have oversight on.
Well, I agree with you, and I'm glad you brought the risk piece of it, because that's the one thing I would tell any board member I meet this year, is that cyber risk is no different from any other risk that you manage. You don't know how to manage all the other risks either, but now at the board level, it's just one more risk they have to manage for the company. Ask your organizations, ask your cybersecurity leaders, all right, what is the material risk of a cyber attack coming at them in 2018, and ask them to justify that. I think that's the question that should be on all board members' minds. And so that is it for this segment. That's a wrap. So John and Paul, thanks for joining me on this episode of Secure Up. We'll see you at the next one. Any last comments, John, from you?
Nope, just good luck, everybody out there in 2018. There's just going to be a lot more to deal with, and I think we're going to stay very busy in the cybersecurity business.
That's for damn sure. Paul, what about you?
We talk a lot about gathering information and intelligence. So if I were to speak to my fellow CISOs, I would be saying, think about what you need to do to make that information actionable in the coming years, because I think that's where we're going to start to find new opportunity to move the needle as defenders.
All right, guys, that's all good advice. Thank you, and we'll see you at the next one. This is Rick Howard signing off.